What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning into the Crash Bang Boom podcast. Today's guest is car bomb drummer extraordinaire and co-studio owner Elliot Hoffman. Elliot has been on my radar for quite some time, and I've been quite curious to see how the hell these ridiculous car bomb songs were crafted behind the scenes. We were able to shed some light on that, as well as the new record titled Meta, due out October 28th, 2016. Plus drum influences, early life, recording techniques, and some other super nerdy drum shit. So without further ado, here we go. Crash Bang Boom! Once again, here with Elliot Hoffman.
Yo.
Awesome drummer. Crazy fucking band. I'm looking forward to picking his brain about all the crazy shit that materializes into these car bomb songs that melts people's brains. So we're about to talk a little bit about that, man. You got shows coming up. You got a record coming up. You got some studio shit happening. Tell me what's up, man. What's going on?
We're super pumped. Like we're just starting to get back into this. Like we've been working on this record for essentially, we haven't played any gigs really since the end of 2014, and we kind of, after the Meshuggah European tour we did over there, and we just went into finalizing all these songs and starting the tracking process. So I tracked the drums last January, and then I walked away, and they worked on the record for another, Greg and Mike and John all doing all their tracking, all the vocal stuff,
the other members of Car Bomb.
And it went to mix, 2 months ago. We had this guy, Josh Wilbur, mix this record. Like, we had mixed and mastered our last two records ourselves and kept it kind of like DIY. Mm-hmm. But I'm just super, I'm blown away by the mix that this guy did. He's an extremely well-known.
Who else has he worked with? He's worked with some. He's all worked with some big shit.
He did Lamb of God, the last Gojira, so La Font Sauvage.
That's right.
He mixed that. He did the last Korn that just came out.
Oh wow! So he works with some big bands.
Yeah, and Joe is friendly with him, so he was able to get us the
Joe being the vocalist guitarist of Gojira.
That's right, Joe Gira.
Gira, that's good.
Who is also the producer of the Car Bomb record.
There you go.
Joe has been like one of our best advocates, because he's like a rock star or whatever.
And we'll also get to how you met him, because that is a bizarre twist of fate, and how what became of that chance encounter is an interesting story that we'll touch upon. It's pretty bizarre, man. But yeah, man, I love the record. I think it is undeniably sonically an absolute step up from everything that y'all have done.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's like Dolby surround sound.
Yeah, the separation is beautiful. It reminds me of like Pantera, but like more modern kind of sounding,
right?
And just I love that shit. Like, it's turned out. I'm super happy. Like, he started sending the mixes to us, and he went in a total different direction that I normally do with my drums, which is like a more of a natural kind of like, toms and snare and all this kind of stuff. And he didn't do any sample replacement, but except for the kick, which is a sample. So he threw his own kick choice in there, and the processing he did on the snare and toms, it just sounds unbelievable. Like when I slam on the floor toms, it kind of like blacks out the whole mix.
Right.
Which is like, but in a really nice way.
Right.
And I was just like, holy shit, blackout toms.
It's as if this guy knows what he's doing, man. See what happens when you outsource some shits every now and again?
Unbelievable. Pros. Hire the pros.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, y'all have some shows coming up. Do you have some little tours that y'all are doing?
Yeah, so we're this. I don't know when this is going to air, but we have two shows coming up with Gojira. One is in Detroit on October 19th, and then one on the 23rd at Terminal 5.
Okay.
And then we have our CD release show / party at
St. Vitus
at St. Vitus
on the 25th.
On the 25th with Mika's Murder and Circuit of Sons.
Yes.
That'll be a lot of fun.
Going to be good times.
And then we get ready to go out with Dillinger Escape Plan in November. We're doing a bunch of East Coast dates with them. We're hooking up. They're doing 5 weeks, but we're hopping on for the last 2 weeks.
Awesome.
Starting in Florida and coming back up to the Northeast here.
Badass, man.
Yeah.
Well, we're doing this in my apartment here, and when you walked in, we were listening to some of the new Dillinger Escape Plan, commenting on how one of the songs had some Mahavishnu orchestra references in it. But that's fucking cool, man. That the two of y'all are going out. I can't even imagine those two bands back to back. That seems.
Well, luckily there'll be a couple of bands in between us and them.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, their new record is fucking. I gave it a full listen in the car today, which is the best place to listen.
Goddamn right it is.
Is fucking amazing. Yeah.
Well, let's touch on the Gojira thing, because I want you to tell the story, because I think it's like kind of an exemplary case of the whole idea that sometimes you should just play a show and you never know what's going to become of it.
Absolutely, yeah. You can't plan for things like this.
No, so
Yeah.
tell the people the Gojira connection between Car Bomb and Gojira.
So we played a one-off show that we flew out. It was a festival that Max Cavalera threw in Tempe, Arizona. And Max's wife was doing the booking for it, and she invited us out. So we flew out and played the festival show there, somewhere, you know, in the middle of the lineup. And I had never listened to Gojira before that, really.
That's amazing.
And he was playing bass with Cavalera Conspiracy.
Weird. Now, see, that's what's so strange about this.
Yeah, so
because this isn't even a direct Gojira
That's
connection.
right. It's a total chance
Proxy
thing. And he was on the side of the stage when we played, and he just fucking couldn't believe it. You know, he would listen to us and was like, he really lost it. He was like, what the fuck?
That is
and
so
he's like,
cool.
so we hit it off, and he became an instant fan of Car Bomb. And he, you know, and then Johnny and him really hit it off. You know, they spent like a bunch of hours just rapping and stuff. And within a year, we were on tour with them. Like, they invited us to be on their first U.S. tour.
Unbelievable.
And yeah, and having him, you know, being the rock star he is, be a fan of ours.
Yeah.
And essentially name dropping us to people that he meets, like that essentially. He turned Frederick Thorndal from Meshuggah onto us.
That's the Meshuggah connection as well?
And then we were on tour with Meshuggah in Europe shortly after that.
Unbelievable.
And, you know, just and it's amazing because a band like of our size, without a label and without a booking agent and without representation of any kind, have landed some really amazing tours, you know what I mean? Which is almost unheard of this day and age.
Fuck yeah, it is.
And I directly attribute that to Joe Gira.
Fuck yeah, man. I think, and one of the distinctions, I don't know if you made it, but wasn't that just a one-off show that y'all did for that Arizona show?
Yes, yeah.
So that's the thing to mention as well. Y'all flew out there to play a one-off show at a festival, and
that's right.
Joe was sitting and playing bass in another band outside of Gojira who saw your band.
Yeah, he was in from France to play that one show.
One show?
With Cavalera Conspiracy.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and so, yeah, amazing.
Well, flash forward now. There's a studio connection as well with
right.
You and Joe,
So
right?
Joe, several years, I guess about 2012 or around 2012, he moved from France to New York.
Yeah.
And you know, he stayed. We're good friends, so he stayed at my place for like a month while he was looking for an apartment for him and his wife.
Yeah.
Or now wife. And yeah, and so since he moved to New York, we've hung out a bunch. And he, before the recording of the last Gojira record, he built a studio here in Brooklyn called Silver Chord Studio, and
which is where y'all tracked Car Bomb tracked there. Correct?
I tracked all the drums there. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And he was looking for a partner, so I had a nice home recording studio with a drum ISO booth and some nice gear, so I actually went in as a partner with him in Silver Chord Studio. So me and him are like really the two owners,
right,
of Silver Chord Studios. He's got the an A mix room with the live room attached, and then I have like a whole B mix mastering room upstairs.
Unfucking believable.
Yeah,
man.
so we're kind of in business together too. So that's beautiful.
That is. Wow, from one show, man. That shit changed your life, man.
Yeah, and it's just like you know, and the relationships have developed over the years, obviously. Yeah, but yeah, so just good friends, and you know, whatever they need, we're there for them, and you know, he's done more than enough. Like he could tell us to go fuck ourselves, and we'd be totally happy with him. You know what I mean?
You're like, yeah, you did it,
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because I've spoken to you briefly about it, is the sort of writing process that I guess Car Bomb goes through to actually develop these songs.
Yep.
So it's by all means less than traditional from what I've heard from you, I would say.
Well, it's really like a blend of a bunch of different things. Like I have a pre-production setup at my house, and I play a lot of guitar, and so I'll go ahead and write either just like ideas with drums and guitar.
Are you using or do you orchestrate like electronic drums to it, or are you?
Yeah, I'm using like Drum Kit from Hell and Tune Track, and I
Cool.
have a Fractal Axe Effects, and so I basically use like the Meshuggah in a Box plugins.
Okay.
And just for like demoing ideas,
Uh-huh.
and then I'll send those to Greg, and Greg is doing all of the same thing at his place too, writing with the drum machine also.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of what we'll do also is get together and rehearse and videotape ideas that we come up with on the spot. Like I'm more of like I'm a big, I have a jazz background or whatever, and like I like come up with tons of stuff. I just improvise stuff, and
Yeah.
Greg will stop me and be like, "What the fuck was that?" And then videotape it, and then go home and like program a version of what I had played.
Really?
Yeah, and then try and write a riff against it.
Fucking
Like,
bizarre.
Some of our more like outlandish kind of stuff comes from exactly from that,
Really?
Yeah.
And when you say like I guess the jazz influence, are you like soloing, or are you ripping, or is it more of a like consistent pattern thing, or is it just random? It could be anything.
I mean, I come from the school of like just blowing chops, you know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Like kind of thing, and I'll try and lock into a pattern or whatever, and then he'll be like, "What the fuck was that?" And I'll try and figure it out, because I don't know, I don't know if I'm burnt or whatever, but I'll just like I'll play stuff and it'll just go out of my head, and I don't know exactly what it is. It's just like part of the repertoire, just reaching for shit,
Yeah.
and Greg is great in the sense like he tries to rein that in and make an idea out of it, and really hone it. So I'm putting out the raw, output, and then he's kind of like tailoring it, and then he'll, sometimes I'll write a whole song, sometimes Greg will write a whole song, and then Johnny sometimes will throw a bunch of ideas. Johnny's more of the like, why don't we try it this way? Why don't we try fives over it? Why don't we try this? And kind of like, I don't know. There's a lot of bouncing back and forth between the three of us as the instrumentalists.
Right.
Yeah. And
Johnny being the bass player, for those who.
Johnny, the BFF.
The BFF.
I've been playing with Johnny since like '93, and
Well, let's talk about that. Jesus Christ. And I guess this, like, I did a podcast with Kenny Grahowski, another fucking amazing drummer, and it was such a testament. It was like the testament to like attention deficit. We were just bouncing all over the place. So this one will probably be a little bit like that as well.
Yeah.
But so tell me a little bit about, well, yeah. So let's start about, I guess, what are the origins of Car Bomb? How did that come to be?
So Car Bomb, as a project, really was, well, me and Johnny played together in a band called Spooge, based out of Long Island, which was it was kind of like Primus meets Mr. Bungle meets Frank Zappa meets like early Meshuggah stuff, like
all of the shit that I was listening to heavily in the 90s.
So essentially that's what it was. Like everything that we were listening to, we just kind of mashed it all together into these like ridiculous pieces of music,
Right.
And so we had that going on, and then Greg and Mike who are the other two members of Car Bomb, had a band called Neck, which was kind of like, I don't know, like post-hardcore, kind of like they were doing the same thing Deftones were doing, like at the beginning of Deftones.
Right.
Like if you go back and listen to the first Deftones record, like, and then you listen to the Neck record from that year, it's like almost like the same thing, except I liked Neck a lot more than the Deftones back then. But essentially both me and the drummer of Neck were roommates together, and we just like went totally off the deep end and became like hardcore drug addicts, and like both of those bands broke up.
Oh, wow, there you go.
So that was the end of those two bands. So the guys from Neck and Johnny from Spooge started Car Bomb, A couple of years after that, they stayed friends. So it was Mike and Greg and John with a different drummer. This guy named Dave Penna, who's like an amazing drummer from Long Island. He hasn't really played on many records, but he's a fucking great drummer. And so after I got cleaned up my act a little bit, I told Johnny that, you know, I was looking to play drums again, and that was it. I was in Car Bomb, and that was like 2002, and we started recorded an EP, and then we started pushing the EP and playing some shows, and then we got signed to Relapse and put out a record in 2007 was the first record. Yeah, and then we just been doing that. That's really the only project I've been involved in musically. I did a couple of little small things on the side, but not the Car Bomb has really been the main focus musically, you know.
From the sounds of it, it seems to be pretty time consuming. I could see how the process and just I think to really do it justice, the type of focus as someone who has shit focus, I can only imagine that I would have to be kind of zoned.
Well, you got to remember that none of us are full-time musicians. We all work we're all career guys. Like, I'm a computer programmer.
Right.
Johnny writes code. And Greg is a graphic designer full-time.
Wow.
And Mike is a physicist and he was flying satellites, like a
really?
Satellite controller. Yeah. So we're all like career guys. So fitting in Car Bomb in between career, luckily none of us have kids.
Well,
so,
that would
probably be the end of Car Bomb.
Add a layer of complexity to an already complex situation.
Yeah, but you know, so it's really a testament to how like tight knit and group of guys we are. You know what I mean? To like keep this going for 10 years in between us all working full time.
Absolutely.
And really making it a priority in our lives, as opposed to you know, I don't know what I would do without, you know, being involved in music and playing drums, and you know, I would probably lose my mind. So it's really been my my outlet. It's not like the part-time rock star thing, you know.
Right,
I mean?
exactly.
Like, it's fucking amazing, you know.
I admire that a decade of playing what most would, even the casual observer would be like, well, that's probably pretty abrasive music, and then even people that are accustomed to it would be like, that is some esoteric crazy shit. Like,
right.
To keep a core group of guys together over the course of a decade playing that style of music with the ups and downs and everything that comes with it, and balance in fucking regular life. Like, that's kind of impressive that y'all have managed to make it happen.
Yeah, and it, you know, that's really the reason the music is so crazy, is because we just don't expect to make a penny doing it.
Right,
you know
right. You're like, fuck it,
dude. If we could come close to breaking even, it would be a fucking miracle. You know what I mean? And
I've never been in a band that has ever even come close to really breaking even, man.
You know, it's like that's why the music almost, has a level of integrity to it, is because we don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? It's just like we write what we want to hear. Like and really take that approach towards it. That's why it's kind of like it almost doesn't have. It's just what we want to hear, you know? Exactly. Yeah. So
there are aspects of it that, or sound to me at least, that it's a phrase that isn't necessarily locked into a grid. And I feel like I've mentioned this to you before. And there is, because I mean, you know, most even like Meshuggah, for instance, you know, most drumming wise, a lot of that is kind of like based off quarter note pulse or something like that, and things move around it. Your shit gets fucking super weird with that. Yeah. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? So I guess what in those instances, what is going on?
I think really the rhythmical or the rhythmic concept of Car Bomb, like I'm you know, I spend years and years, you know, I kind of have like in addition to metal, like a fusion background, you know, like a big Zappa head, and studied a lot of drumming stuff, with, you know, whether it's polyrhythms or metric modulation or displacement, and all that type of stuff, and taking a lot of those concepts and kind of making them into super heavy grooves. Like I'm a big fan of something being very complicated when I try to describe what it is, but it sounds almost simplistic over it. So a lot of it is so. This is a drumming podcast, so I can get into I can get into specifics here. Yeah. So you have you know, the rhythmic rates, you know, whether it's eighth notes, triplets, 16th notes, 5 tuplets, 6 tuplets, 7 tuplets,
however you want it.
So you have a beat, and you divide that into one of those rates, and then you take those rates within beats and then divide those into different groupings. You know, so
different subdivisions
of different rates. What we'll do is we'll take something that's at the same rate. So let's say I'm playing just regular 16th notes, and it's a straight beat, and then I'll change it to groupings of 5, so it sounds like it's slowing down.
Greg, the guitarist, he will maintain the same riff, but it's you in your
correct
subdivisions. It sounds like things are drifting apart.
Right. So we call it downshifting or fucking upshifting, where it's like
right,
or we call it melting it. So you just melt it. So
That's
it's
so
like
metal.
Dude, yeah. So it sounds more metal than say, all right, let's do divisions of 7 and instead of divisions of 4 or 5. You know what I mean? So that's
right.
That's one of the basic concepts that we'll use a lot, really keeping the tempo the same, but stretching out the divisions of stuff. And then also, it sounds a lot cooler when you do it like over mixed meter type stuff. So you have like mixed meter going on underneath and with straight subdivisions going on that are speeding up and like stretching and expanding underneath it.
Jesus Christ, dude.
So you really got to like, there's a lot of rhythmic...
it goes back to the modulation.
Yeah. I've tons of rhythmic education, like underneath all that stuff. It's not like something that that I just come up with. I mean, I can improvise or whatever, but it's like when the whole band has got to play together, we really got to analyze it and say what is this?
Oh yeah, man.
And really get it all worked out, because there's really no improvisation in Car Bomb at all.
Fuck no, there isn't. And which leads me to 2 questions. One, when recording some of that stuff, is there some stuff that you just don't play to a click track at all, or you just?
I never play to a click track.
Oh fucking A, that's amazing.
Yeah, no click track ever.
See, that's another thing that your timing is so good, and I can hear sort of at times some of the subdivisions and the things that you're going through. I haven't gotten nearly as deep.
Well, it's super complex to begin with, and then when not playing to a click, it kind of gives it this like rubber bandy thing. You know what I mean? Because I'm just like that's what I love about it is like it's people will try and express like extremely. Like complex rhythmic ideas, but then they're locked to a grid, so it almost sounds mechanical.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you're doing something that complicated and then it's not locked to a grid, it kind of gives it this like this weird thing where you can't count it. Sure. At all. Even I try and snap my fingers to the new record, and I'm like, I can't count.
There's some weird shit going on.
There's fucking weird shit going on.
There's some weird shit going on. But what that makes it, and part of it. I think one of the things that is so fascinating about it is that click tracks are in essence sort of I work in video, so the like time code is like the Bible. It's the thing that binds all of the elements. Yeah. Click tracks kind of operate in a similar sense with bands, so everyone has a similar reference, and you can say that's where this is our point of reference.
Right.
So what's amazing about what y'all do is that it's like, as you said, it expands and all that, yet y'all can play that shit together.
Right.
Which goes back to the chemistry, and you have an understanding of each other as players.
Well, we rehearse without looking at each other. Like I have my drum set up facing the wall, so that way I never make eye contact with anybody. Yeah. So
this just keeps getting stranger and stranger. You fucking weirdos.
I should be able to like just get on stage like and not look at anybody and just play through the whole set without just hope everybody else is in time.
That is fucking baffling, man.
I mean, that's the way it really needs to be, because like when you're playing small clubs or stuff like that, sometimes it just sounds like, when you're as a drummer, it just sounds like you're underwater and you can't hear shit anyway. Of course. Like I played a gig last weekend, it was just the bass guitar blasting in my ear on the stage wedge, Yeah. And I couldn't hear anything. I was totally miserable. You know? And I just went on autopilot and fucking closed my eyes. Got through it. Yeah.
That's amazing, because boy, I'm trying. My only reference point, I think the most complicated shit that I've played is the band that I presently play in, and that's more or less just kind of high energy punk rock, like bombastic shit.
Which is very good, by the way.
It's fun, but I guess what I'm getting at is a train wreck in my band is. I feel like we might be able to pull out of it. I feel like a train wreck and were it to happen live in one of your songs.
I'm the one who needs to be on.
That's what I'm saying. If you fuck up, though.
That's right. Yeah. So that's the one. Like I miss one note, and everybody is looking at me. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, you like the guitar is out of tune and
Right.
the fucking bass just sounds like,
Right.
you know what I mean? I miss one note and it's like, oh, you fucking, you know, well,
Yeah.
that's just what we sign up for when we play drums in this style of music. You know what
Exactly.
I mean? It's like, oh, you're not perfect. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? It's
yeah,
like, so luckily I have an uncanny ability to like come out of a train wreck, which is like, that just comes with, you know, whatever. I'll just pick it up somewhere and then they better follow. But, you know,
Fuck yeah.
it's, I try not to lead us off the tracks too much. You know what I mean?
I hear you, man.
Yeah, that's why I practice not looking at anybody, because they're not, you know, they're going to be looking at me. I'm not going to be looking at them for, you know, where the cues are or whatever. You know what I mean? So I go up there. You might as well just press play on a drum machine or whatever. But
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. We've talked a lot about drumming, but we haven't really addressed, I guess, like where you started and where this whole journey started from that end, I guess.
So I got started pretty young. It's kind of an interesting story. I grew up in New York here in Long Island, a town called Valley Stream.
Right on.
And my father and mother were both professional musicians. My father was a keyboardist and
Really?
bass player, and he played some drums. So I actually had a drum set up in my house all growing up. He had like a Champagne Sparkle Gretsch
Fucking A.
with like the blue hydraulic heads on it.
Do you still have the kit? Or
No. So that's another funny story.
Oh.
So my father wanted to stop being a musician and go to law school, so he relocated the family down to Virginia Beach, Virginia. Like,
Really?
sold their house in New York, bought a nice house down in Virginia Beach, moved the whole family down there.
How old
And
were you?
I was like 8 or 9.
Okay.
Yeah. And that first summer we were down there, I didn't have any friends yet because the school year hadn't started yet. And
Right.
I set up the Champagne Sparkle drums in the garage and started playing like Van Halen songs, you know. And
Would you literally put on headphones and play along, or just
well, and actually,
like, in your mind?
my father would play with me.
No
like,
way.
Play keyboard and left-hand bass. And he'd play like
Really?
Jump. Yeah, play Jump or play like Michael Jackson tunes or
See, dude, it's all coming
Stevie
together.
Wonder
This
tunes.
shit is in your DNA, son.
yeah. And he would like, you know, try and explain to me. I had basic like good rhythm, you know, before I knew anything. And then my father would show me basic stuff, and you know, he would like put on a Police record and be like listen to the way this guy hits the snare drum and plays a hi-hat, you know, and like
Rim
like,
shots.
Yeah. He's like, when this guy hits the snare drum, he
With
means,
conventional grip, no less.
yeah, that's right.
Fucking how
Yeah,
weird is
Stuart
that?
Copeland is the fucking man. So that was great in a sense of like him showing me like the basics and what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
And then got my first Metallica record.
Oh shit.
And Anthrax and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
It's a funny story. Like the neighborhood delinquents who were walking around the neighborhood, the heavy metal kids, knocked on my garage door and they were like, "You're gonna play drums in our heavy metal band." They were older than me. They were like 16 or 17. I was about 9.5, 10 years old at the time. So I started playing in a band with them.
Practicing in your parents' garage?
In our garage, yeah.
Wow.
So I think the first song I played was Six Pack by Black Flag.
Wow.
And then it immediately went into like Anthrax and Metallica covers, and all those they were like big Slayer fans, and so I had to learn how to play, you know, And Justice for All and
Right.
Among the Living and
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's I kind of got thrown into the fire, like play this. So I traded my Nintendo for.
Did you have a double bass kick?
I traded my Nintendo for the second bass drum
That's where you're
to
going
my
with this.
neighbor. Yeah.
Oh, the double bass drum.
yeah.
Was it to match? Did you?
There
find
were
it to
there
match
were.
the kit?
This is like '89, so
Right.
there was no like real double. The only double pedals they had was like with the full whole separate linkage
Right,
on them.
right.
The double. So I got another. I got another totally not matching bass drum. Yeah, I didn't care at the time. But learning. So the good thing that came out of it was once my father saw that I was really starting to pick up playing the drums.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, we got to get you a proper set of drums or whatever. So he took the 3-piece Gretsch, traded that into a vintage shop, and got me like a full double bass Tama kit.
That's awesome, man.
It was actually 2 5-piece kits, so it was like 2 22s, 12 12, 13 13.
What?
16 16.
you set up all the toms?
Oh yeah. I would set up. I tried to like borrow toms to set up even more toms. I would, you know, I couldn't have enough drums. You know,
Really?
I was like, you know, I was a kid or whatever. So
That is fucking hilarious.
I put 2 toms like over my hi-hat, like up high, like I forget who did that. Maybe it was.
Was it the dude?
Iron Maiden?
Yes. Was it Nico McBride?
Yeah, I think
Right?
he did that.
He had like 2 over there.
Yeah.
But he also had a fucking wash
I think
of them.
Charlie Benante fucking maybe had that too.
Charlie Benante might have had that as well.
Yeah. Charlie Benante
Yeah.
I fucking loved when I was a kid.
Dude,
Yeah.
you know, man, it's funny. I will interject only for a second and say that the first drum set that I got it from my stepmother, who is no longer around. She took me to Ray Francis Drum Center just outside of New Orleans. And I ended up getting a Tama Superstar kit.
Nice.
But the first time that I sat down and tried to play a beat, I played the beat that Charlie. It's like the triplet thing that he plays on like Belly of the Beast.
Oh yeah.
I could play it because it was unison, you know. So it was like
totally.
my right hand and my right foot can do that, and I can do this. So I was like, fucking A, I gotta get a drum
4,
set.
yeah.
Exactly. So I digress. Proceed with your story.
That's the Bill Andrews beat from Death too.
Oh, yeah?
Well, there's a lot of beats.
There's a lot of those. Yeah. Throughout musical history, we could
That's
probably
right.
find a few of those.
So where were we?
So you were playing.
All right, so I started playing with these guys, and then we all became like skater. You know, it was like the skater thrash thing. You know?
Yeah.
So it was like it immediately.
Well, you and I are the same age, so we were hearing the same.
Yeah, yeah. So it was, Sepultura, Beneath the Remains came out,
Woo!
and then Creator, Extreme Aggression,
Right,
and all that kind of stuff. And I was totally into that, and we had our band, and we started playing shows around Virginia Beach, and then like during this time, I was like, after playing, I guess I was about 12 or 13. I was like, all right, let me start taking drum lessons.
Okay.
So I had started listening to more progressive stuff, like Watchtower, and there was this band Confessor from down south.
Fuck yeah.
There, I used to like listen to all that stuff and try and play that stuff by ear, just listening to it.
Question: the drummer of Watchtower, is that the same guy from Spastic Inc., the Jarzenbeck brothers, or whatever?
No, so Bobby Jarzembek is an amazing drummer, but he didn't play in Watchtower.
Did his brother play it?
Ron Jarzembek
there we go.
is the guitarist of Watchtower.
Okay,
Correct.
there we go. That was the connection.
Yeah, the drummer for Watchtower was this guy named Rick Kaluka.
Okay,
Yeah.
I like it. Nice.
Yeah. But they were just doing basically like progressive metal, kind of, it was kind of like 80s. The vocals weren't the best, but musically they were amazing. And then like the death metal wave hit in like 91, where it was like all those records came out, where it was like I was a huge Carcass fan, and Entombed and Obituary and Morbid Angel, all that kind of stuff, Pestilence. And so we immediately switched from like the thrash band to the death metal band, and grind stuff. I started listening to Terrorizer and all this other stuff. But then at the same time, so much amazing music started coming out. It was like the first Mr. Bungle record came out. The first Primus record.
Right.
When the first Primus record came out, that kind of like changed my life. I was like, wow, this drummer.
Are we talking Frizzle Fry, like the first full length?
Yeah, like Suck on This, like the first.
Oh,
first
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
When I
The
first
live.
started,
That's live, right?
Yeah, live.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, this drummer sounds like Stuart Copeland, except with fucking amazing bass playing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Kind of like that same kind of super tight, a lot of good hi-hat work, cracking snare drum.
Dude, the first time I remember, I was a little bit after that. I heard Frizzle Fry. I've mentioned before on this podcast, and a buddy of mine, I still don't understand how this dude fucking found out about it, because it was like, he was a total country boy, and he was like, man, you gotta check out this fucking band Primus, man. They're fucking weird as shit. And he played it for me, and I was like, this band, not only is this band weird as shit, but like, it was like, it sounded like they were from Mars, man.
Yeah, so good.
That shit was so weird, man. And it bears mentioning that, of course, the guy that doesn't get mentioned so often is Larry Lalonde, but I mean, his guitar playing was a perfect counterpoint to how strange Les's bass playing was.
It was a big change from Possessed.
Yeah, how fucking weird is that? How fucking weird is that?
Totally weird. Yeah.
Totally fucking weird.
I saw them live a couple of times, like I think I saw them open up for Faith No More.
Really?
Like way back, yeah. And then the album, or the audience was throwing cheese at them. Because
really?
Yeah. That was like, but I loved Primus. That was like, that was a big influence on me.
Fuck yeah, man.
And then what else? Like, So at somewhere at this point, like around 92, 93, my father graduated law school. And he's like, all right, we're going back to New York now. So the whole family moved back up to Long Island, broke up the band. So I landed in, so by this time I was like the child prodigy death metal drummer. You know what I mean? Like, it was so cool, crazy. Like down in Virginia, because I kind of like excelled really fast. So I had all these older guys who were like 18, 19 years old. Like, I was like their prized possession or whatever, you know. So I didn't really have, wasn't really wanting for like a peer group or anything like that. So when I moved back to New York, I didn't really have that. I went back to you know, junior high school, and I was like, I don't fucking relate to any of these kids. Like, I didn't have my older friends, you know. Yeah. So immediately I put an ad out, or I started looking through the ads for drummers. People
How would you
looking for
put
drummers.
it at what medium are we talking in that age?
That was like Good Times Magazine or something out there.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, which is like the local music rag out in Long Island.
Whenever I talk to anyone who's of my age or grew up in the pre-internet world, I always like to have these discussions, because there are people who clearly don't understand what it's like to not
pre-internet, baby.
Yeah,
much harder to find out.
a
lot
bit
of
harder.
Things. Yeah.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah, slowing down drum licks on like 4-track machines to figure out, you know, call
you
the
know
licks.
what's fucking great about it though, and I think that it's something that some of the other generations will lose: the need to interact with people and talk to people and seek people out that had information, and the bonding experience that happened from that, and the personal aspect of that is something that will be lost.
Yeah, totally.
And dude, I still wonder. I'm like, how the fuck did we even find this stuff? Like, somebody somewhere knew something and told somebody. Man, it was word of mouth, dude.
Yeah, totally.
It's fucking crazy.
Mixtapes.
Totally different world.
Tape trading.
Goddamn mixtape, man.
Yeah. Zines together.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I would buy a record just looking at a magazine. That record looks cool. The cover art.
Yeah.
That'd make you buy a record.
Fucking totally. Yeah.
It's like, now people are like, yeah, I want to hear the record in its entirety, and yeah, I'm not gonna pay for that.
Yeah, it's different world.
Slightly different world.
Yeah.
So once again,
yeah, the guys in my band call me the mayor. You know what I mean? Because
yeah?
I kind of just like fucking go out and talk to anybody. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I love rapping with people. I'll get together with a gaggle of drummers and just fucking talk drums for like 5 hours. You know?
Of course.
Chain smoke or whatever. Get some cheesesteaks. But
so let's get back to it. So you're in Long Island, back in Long Island.
Back in Long Island, I see an ad in Good Times magazine out there, and it's like thrash metal band or looking for drummer, influences King Diamond's, Mr. Bungle, Ripping Corpse. Somebody, I was like, holy shit, Ripping Corpse and King Diamond together. So I respond to the ad, and it turns out to be this band, this thrash band from Long Island called Maelstrom, and they were like kind of like that Renaissance fair kind of themed European power thrash thing.
Oh, nice, man. That was an incredible description. Renaissance fair European thrash.
Yeah, it's like fantasy,
right? You
know, fantasy themed thrash.
Isn't that kind of what modern power in this day and age power metal is sort of?
Yeah, totally. Right? Power, Man of War, kind of, but like neoclassical guitar playing, kind of like, you know, they were fucking great musicians, you know. So I joined their band, and I learned the Maelstrom songs. It kind of really wasn't working for me. Like, I just didn't. I had too much of like a weirdo background with like the whole Primus, Mr. Bungle kind of Zappa comedy thing going on that I couldn't take it very seriously. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I was like, listen, it's just not working for me. So essentially, unfortunately for Gary, who was the singer of Maelstrom broke up, and we started another band minus Gary called Spooge.
Oh, so this all comes full circle.
And we got a different singer, and that was it. So Johnny, I played in Maelstrom with Johnny, who's the bass player of Car Bomb, since then.
Wow.
Yeah, a long time ago. So, but from like a drumming standpoint, at that time in my life, I started really getting into a lot of tons of fusion stuff. I became like the serious Vinnie Colaiuta worshiper, basically picking apart everything I could find of his. It's just like I heard the Alan Holdsworth Secrets record, and I heard him play on like Shut Up and Play Your Guitar, Zappa records, and I just fell in love with his playing. I was like, oh my god, this guy's the best. And then I was listening to like a lot of Dennis Chambers. I was listening to a lot of Simon Phillips. A lot of Latin stuff too, like this guy Horacio Hernandez.
Of course.
I started shedding all that stuff, and I was playing a lot. I was playing like I don't know, like 6 hours a day, just like I was smoking a lot of weed and just fucking practicing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all the spooge stuff was written around basically the new grooves that I was working on that week. You know, so it just became like, this song is Latin, this song is reggae. I heard None for the first time, and it was like they have that first song.
Right. Yeah.
And, you know, that was the first time they like we were talking about earlier, like the staples. Like now, if you have a fucking heavy chuggy groove with a China over it and a halftime backbeat, Meshuggah owns that. You know,
Meshuggah fucking patented that shit.
And then you like we were listening to Dillinger Escape Plan. They have the SOS fucking like Morse code blast beat.
Yeah, Morse code blast beat is a fucking great way of describing it. I always just called it like syncopated blast beat or just pulling notes out of a blast beat, but Morse code in particular kind of does tick, 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 tick.
Yeah, well, it's either 1, 2s, 3s, or 4s. It's arranged differently. Fucking blast beat's super aggressive and high tempo. You know what I mean? It fucking sounds nuts.
Yeah, yeah, it's badass.
So they own that. That's their thing.
Fuck yeah.
And you know, it's hard when you're playing like, geez, like even with Car Bomb, we get compared to, you know, whether it's Dillinger Escape Plan or Meshuggah. Those are like the two main influences. You know what I mean?
I hear Meshuggah more than Dillinger personally.
Yeah, because I do a lot of China and snare drums, so it sounds like, you know, and the chuggy guitar. Like I'm a big fan of like, you know, Destroy, Erase, Improve guitar tone.
Fuck yeah.
You know, and that kind of super polyrhythmic, just fucking heavy. You know
By the
what I
way,
mean?
am I mispronouncing it? Is it the Hurrida? Is that the that's what people call it? That?
What's that?
You know what I'm talking about?
The
rhythm, like I've heard people call it like it sounds like they're like Hurrida or Herida. Am I just?
Are you talking about the bleed thing?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's I've never heard a name for that. My father actually showed me that lick like in the first month I was playing. That's a Billy Cobham lick.
Right.
And
I think people call it that because if you say like hudda, it's like the syllables are.
Oh yeah.
I think I've heard a few people call it that.
That depends on what region of the country you're from as to what your syllables are for your drum licks, I think.
That's probably right. I'm from the deep south, so I'm fucked. I don't know what to tell you.
You know heard of.
You heard of that shit, man? That's fun. Ain't fucking heard us.
Yeah, that's like a classic lick. You know.
Yeah.
And they just took that and fucking made it the heaviest thing ever. You know.
Jesus.
The marathon. One of the new songs on our new record, we took that rhythm. And it's essentially like an ode to bleed. So you'll hear it. It's the second to last song on the record. It's obviously an ode to bleed, but it's much more complicated because we're doing that thing we were discussing earlier with expanding and stretching over that rhythm and switching it between 3s and 5s. And
Jesus.
So it really sounds like it's speeding up and slowing down over that rhythm, but it's it's very cool. You can check that out.
I'm gonna check that shit out, man. Reverting back to one thing, we were talking about just sort of like studying drums and shit. Like, where did you go? Were you buying like the VHS
totally.
instructional videos?
Yeah. Like I think the first one I had was like Tommy Aldridge or something like that.
No shit.
Yeah.
I never got that one.
Oh my god, dude, it's fucking amazing.
That guy's got a wild set of hair and he has a wild sort of flinging style.
Oh my god, he's like when I was a kid, like Tommy Aldridge was like, holy shit, this fucking guy.
He's got
rocks.
that intro for the.
He's been doing the same shtick for 40 years. The guy rocks. You know?
I'm talking literally the fill that intros Over the Mountain on the Ozzy record.
Yeah, that one.
That shit's awesome.
So anyway, that was like one of the first videos I got, you know, and then as far as like drum instructional stuff, like when I first started studying with this guy named Powell, who was like he taught at the.
What was his first name?
Powell Randolph. Yeah.
Powell Randolph?
Yeah, fucking weird name.
Are you sure that was his real name?
Oh yeah. I found him on Facebook recently. Actually, he's like touring, doing like orchestral Led Zeppelin, Queen tribute thing. So he was still on fire with the whole chops thing or whatever.
And that's who you studied with.
And that's who I studied with. And I didn't study long.
That was in Long Island?
This is in Virginia. And he essentially put me like on the fusion heading. You know, he showed me like mixed stickings and like you know, linear 6-tuplet grooves and funk grooves and all this kind of stuff. And I really took to it really fast. I was just like a sponge. He would just keep writing stuff out, and he would tell me who to listen to, and I would be like, oh my God, and like listen to this guy Aerto fucking playing this Latin shit, or he turned me on to Caluda. He turned me on to like Kenwood Denard and all these guys like. And I really just went into the black hole of the whole fusion thing directly from him. Once I had like the standard fusion kind of like repertoire under my belt, I was able to listen to the guys and kind of understand what they were doing sticking wise and rhythmically, and I really started looking for the stuff that I still couldn't understand what the hell they were doing. And so I basically just listened to all these guys and just like I was big on licks, like. You know, like I got to learn this lick, that lick, all the different stickings, like, and once I had all these a repertoire of licks, then I would try and just mash them all together while improvising, even though if it didn't fit the song. Like that's the whole thing. Like I've been playing for 25 years, 30 years now, and I never really played for the song. I've never been in a position or in a band where I was like, you know, playing a top 40 gig. I did play weddings. That's a whole for like. A year, but that's that's not even worth talking about. But like in original music, like playing straight up for a song, like it's not really where I come from, you know.
Sure.
Or playing pocket, you know. I'm not a pocket guy. I'm really just like out in left field, kind of that guy. You know what I mean? And if you ask me to sit down and play pocket, I could try. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's something I would have to get back into, you know. I mean, I went through all the Garibaldi books and like.
I love that guy so much.
And I worship all that stuff, and I love listening to pocket, but I really haven't been in a position where I would play any of that stuff. You know what I mean? So as much as I am a fan of it, like I sit down and I immediately start playing like really complicated, you know, linear, weird fusion beats over, you know. I don't think I can even play in time, really. Right.
Well, dude, it's amazing because like I was in like concert band and then jazz band in high school, and then studied for like 2.5 to 3 years while I was in college, and that was all like
Kit stuff,
jazz. But at no point, it's interesting. I guess what I'm getting at is that so the guys that I studied with, it was more like here's some written stuff. This is sort of jazz. / Afro-Cuban, you know, Latin drumming stuff.
Right.
And that was kind of what we did. But at no point was there an emphasis so much on like chops and like certain licks and like bridging those together, which is really interesting that I spent all those years and at no point did I really ever focus on that. And just now I'm starting to get into it because I'm watching like some of these gospel chops guys and shit.
Right.
But that's where you kind of like, you started out there.
Well, I'm talking the early 90s, you know what I mean?
Right, which is
like,
crazy.
I didn't really hear about gospel chop until like late 2000s, right? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's just fusion drumming to me. I don't know.
Well, there's the Vinnie Caluta thing as well that we've spoken briefly about because I guess at some point...
The correlation between Caluta becoming a Christian and gospel chops?
Yeah, because I always thought it was strange, and it wasn't until I talked to you, I was like, wow, all these gospel chops guys are like into like they were listening to like Frank Zappa. Like how they know about Vinnie Caluta? I just didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And then apparently, I guess at some point in him,
a lot of those guys shred. So you know, however they came across the information, you know, God bless them.
Yeah, no pun intended.
But to you know the whole church, the like flashy playing with a church band, that's a whole separate thing. You know?
That is a separate thing. I guess I always thought it was interesting that there was consistently sort of a reference to him as being an influence, and I was always wondered how that.
I remember I was sitting there doing my YouTube search for Caluta videos, and I did one is like Vinnie Caluta gives his testimonial, and it's like him playing a drum solo and then getting up and talking about finding Jesus, like this whole testimony thing. So strange. And I was like, what the fuck? and I was just like, and I was like, oh, it all makes sense now, that the gospel chops thing.
Wow, that is so fucking
Because if you're
strange.
doing drum clinics in fucking super churches, there you go.
Yeah. And who other than that guy, Frank Zappa, can attest to it as far as a modulation guy and a guy that could flip shit as in my own
Yeah,
simplistic, way of describing it.
Well, when I was growing up, it was called going out. Like,
right.
All right, he's out, and that means that you're doing some odd groupings or whatever. Like, oh man, that cat is super out. That's the verbiage that I grew up with.
It's funny because when I would hear people say out, my sort of frame of reference was that, like, he's kind of just like fucking off maybe a little bit, and maybe he's like fucking up a little bit. And it's just he's going way the fuck out and coming back. But Vinny's shit seemed to be
out but in.
About as in as out could be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There was no, knew exactly. And I started to inquire pre-internet, like, who did he study with? So I would read through Modern Drummer or whatever, and he studied with Gary Chafee.
Him and Steve Smith went to school together, right?
They were roommates, and they both studied with Gary Chafee at the same time.
There it is. Yeah.
And he, I don't know, I've heard Kalyuda downplay, like, the influence of the Chafee stuff on him, but I went through those books, and all the information is really there.
Oh, yeah?
And it's just the way that Kalyuda has interpreted it and applied it to drum set in, like, such an amazingly like musical way that I mean, it's all just rhythmic ideas or whatever, but the Chafee system in the patterns books is really the sticking system he has. It's like a whole separate system.
Is Modern Breed, is that
New Breed?
New Breed.
That's another drumming book. That's not him. That's Gary Chester.
Gary Chester, not to be confused with
Gary Chafee.
Yeah, okay.
It can get confusing. Yes.
Because some of this, one of my drum instructors, that was one of the books that we studied out of.
That's a great system that he has too, which is essentially separate all four limbs and then you use your voice out loud as a fifth instrument. And
I didn't even get into that part.
And then do all these weird syncopation patterns and stuff using all four limbs and
Did you
voice.
go through that whole?
No, I didn't do that one.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But I've heard people rave about it, and I got the concept of it. But
right.
I don't want to sing out loud to myself. So,
we've covered all. You got gigs, you got the recording coming out, you got the studio happening, the Gojira fucking connection, the Meshuggah connections. Are there any records? Well, I guess now that we're mentioning it, the last couple of months have been pretty crazy because it's been, I guess, Norma Jean, Every Time I Die, Meshuggah. Dillinger, Candiria, Car Bomb. Like, this has been a crazy 2 months for sort of heavy music.
Tons of fucking releases. Yeah, it's fucking amazing.
How did that happen?
It's we've all been on a hiatus.
Yeah.
And now it's like it's amazing that everything has turned out. Like, just this month, it's like us, Candiria, Meshuggah, Dillinger Escape Plan.
That's in like almost like a week or something.
Ion Dissonance, I think, is coming. Despised Icon. Ulcerate. It's like so many records coming out this month. It's like unbelievable. We played a show with Candiria last week. It was the first record they put out in like 7 years or something like that. And they're good buddies too. That was a fucking trip. And their new record is fucking awesome. Yeah, man. Good time to be alive. Good time to be in music. And we actually hired a PR guy and have been doing like a proper release of music, because normally we're just like, the last record we just like, all right, here it is, download it, without any type of hype or anything like that. And it's like, oh, all right, so we're doing it properly this time, and we've been getting a lot of love, man, and like very minimal hate, and people seem to be really liking the new, I think we put out 4 songs so far, so we're super pumped that that people are like ready to accept this fucking, the songwriting and the production and all that kind of stuff, and people just seem like they're in the mood for it, so.
I absolutely think so, and I think it's so bizarre that once again, that with all these other really like awesome releases that are coming out, y'all are kind of right up in the mix of it, and this is the biggest record you have done, the biggest production and the whole thing, and y'all are right up in it.
Yeah, that's so we're just like, getting back on our gigging shoes and fucking just want to go out and shred and fucking have fun. You know what I mean?
Fuck yeah.
That's why I'm in this, to like, get some part-time glory fucking playing shows, because I love playing music live. It's like why I'm in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it, man. I think we're trying to get some good shit happening for the spring, and hopefully it's this year and next year will be amazing. So pumped.
Well, I think we covered it all, dude. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thanks for sitting down with me. I've been nagging you for a strong 6, 7, 8 months, and you finally acquiesced and came over, and we got to nerd out for a little while. So It is
You
is
seduced me
appreciated.
with this soda water with lime in it.
I know, man. That's exactly what it is. I'm gonna give you some beef jerky for the road. You might.
Oh, damn.
That might be some Viagra for you. You might have to wear some loose
I don't
pants.
need Viagra with jerky.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Cool, man. Well, thanks again. And we got Car Bomb coming out October 28th. We got the show October 25th, CD release, St. Vitus in Brooklyn. And check it all out and get your fucking brains melted.
Thanks, y'all.
All right, everybody, that about does it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Nerd Fest, and many thanks to Elliot for taking the time to talk to me. Car Bomb's new album, Meta, is out October 28th, 2016. Get your hands on that shit, son! And stick around for one of the first tracks to be released off said album coming up now, called Gratitude. Crash, bang, boom!